chair. That's pretty funny. Wonder what he was doing there. All right, I think, yes, we are go time. Wonderful. Let's see, go through my 8 layers to find my microphone. There it is. That should be working. Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to Superheroes versus Supervillains. My name is Eve. I'm one of 3 interpreters here in E.C. Manning Park. Now, before we get started, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Naklakma people. This land is asserted and would also be shared with Stolo and Silts Okanagan nations. Now, I'm coming here working as a white settler of Irish and German descent, and I think it can be really valuable to think about where we're coming from, whose land we're on when we're working, playing, just when we're out and about in the world. I find this can be a really helpful and tangible act of decolonization. As well as this, I'd like to express a lot of gratitude for the care and stewardship which has gone into maintaining these lands. It is due to all this hard work that the land is what it is to this day. So I just ask that we all keep these things in mind during our time here. Now that's a little bit I like to say at the beginning of the programs. As well as this, I do owe a very big thank you to the one of our funders, the Skagit Environmental Endowment Commission. Now this is a nonprofit aiming to protect and preserve the Upper Skagit watershed, which, lucky for us, E.C. Manning Park is partially in this watershed. So we're able to receive a little bit of funding through a partnership with the Hope Mountain Center. As well as this, we do receive some funding from Manning Park Resort, as well as lovely audience members such as yourself. We've got a donation moose way at the back of the amphitheater, so if you've got any extra change rolling around, we always appreciate the help. These things will help give us fuel for our generator, petrol for our vehicle, so we can buzz around the park going to and from our programs, and all those little bits and bobs that go into delivering and developing these interpretive programs. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy and maybe learn something new. So, in a land of high alpine meadows, of freshwater lakes, of piercing sunlight and biting winds, of thin soil and unpredictable cold weather, only the strongest and the bravest have what it takes to survive. Many of our species here in E.C. Manning Park have incredible superpowers that allow them to survive in such challenging conditions. Some of them even use these superpowers to help others, making them true superheroes.
Yeah, just like me. I'm Calvin the Corvid. I'm a common raven, but really I'm anything but ordinary. My superpower is stealing food. I'm really good at it. Just the other day, I took this guy's lunch while he was in the bathroom. Sucker.
Calvin, that really doesn't sound like something a superhero would do. I bet that guy was pretty upset you took his lunch, and you really shouldn't be eating human food.
Yeah, well, I'm also really smart.
Well, that's true. You ravens and your Corvid family members, the jays, the magpies, the crows, you all have incredible intelligence. You can solve problems, you can recognize human faces as well as yourself, and you can even use tools, which for quite a long time we thought only humans could do.
Yeah, I'll say. Plus, I'm really good at impressions. Check this one out. Oh!
Gray wolf?
You got it. Now, if I see a yummy carcass that I'm looking at for lunch, but I can't get into it, I can lure some of my wolf friends over. They'll get into it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Can you do any others?
Yeah, how about this one?
Gee, I don't know, was that a toilet?
No, it's a car engine starting. I can do a toilet.
You know what? I think that's all right, Calvin. Why don't we take a minute and think about why species here in the park would need superpowers? What are some of the challenges you think they might face? Any ideas?
Lava.
Not in this park? No. Good guess. Any others?
Vampires.
No vampires here. Does anyone have an idea? Can we help Calvin out? What are some of the things that species here in the park might need to be aware of and might give them a good reason to get superpowers? Yeah. Wildfires, totally, yeah.
They need to watch out for people around them in their habitat.
Totally, yeah. They need to be aware of people in their habitat, yeah.
The way that the cold is.
Absolutely. starts to get very chilly, and we've got lots of rain, lots of snow, so that's definitely something species need to be aware of. And up top in the lovely purple hat, darn it, you'll have to get another one. Very cool. So you've got some really great ideas about the things that species here in the park need to be aware of. So we've got fire, we've got rain, we've got cold, we've got other species. So we can actually group these kinds of challenges into factors, abiotic and biotic factors. So biotic just means something that is alive. So thinking about maybe somebody trying to eat you for dinner, or maybe who you are looking at eating for dinner, that's going to be a biotic factor because in both cases the factor is alive. Now something like the rain, the fire, cold temperatures, even the soil that you're growing in maybe, that would be considered an abiotic factor because it's technically not alive. Now does that make sense, Calvin?
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually really good at sorting things. I love sorting things that are shiny in particular, but don't really care for things that aren't that shiny. I guess you could call them a-shiny?
Yeah, I suppose you could. Well, let's put your sorting skills to the test, Calvin. Do you think you can sort these different challenges species might face into biotic or abiotic factors?
Rat, can I call a friend?
For sure. Would you folks be able to help Calvin out here? All right, we'll do a quick review. So, biotic factors, we've got animals, plants, fungi, microorganisms, anything that is alive. For abiotic, we've got light, we've got the rain, we've got the temperature, we've got snow, all of those things which aren't technically alive. So, what do we got? Fire. Is fire biotic or abiotic? See a hand there with the lovely green pants? Abiotic, absolutely. So sometimes if you've really got a roaring fire, it might look like it's dancing, but fire is technically not alive, so abiotic. How about drought? Yeah, and the nice puffy white hat. It's a really good guess. So this is kind of a tricky one because I've actually got some biotic factors in the picture. So the grasses and the trees, those are all alive. But a drought is actually just not having enough water. So we do consider water to not be alive. So a lack of it is also going to be abiotic. How about a coyote? Yeah, with the orange sweater. Biotic, absolutely. Our coyote friend is very much alive and very much biotic. How about a flood? Yeah. Abiotic, totally. So kind of the opposite of a drought. Now we've got too much water. A bee. What do we think a bee is? Yeah.
Biotic.
Biotic, absolutely. The bee is alive. How about the flower that the bee is sitting on? Yeah.
Biotic?
Biotic, totally. So flower is part of a plant. Plants being alive, so we would consider both of these biotic. What do we have next? How about some mushrooms? Way in the back there. Yeah, with the purple hat. Alive, absolutely. So our mushroom is part of a fungus. Fungi are definitely alive, so we would consider these biotic factors. Very nice. And Calvin, did you mess with my slide deck?
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. Wow, there's really a lot of things that species here in the park need to be aware of.
Yeah, and as this kind of exercise shows, it's not just conditions like fire, drought, flood, temperature. It's even the other species that you are living with. So imagine that you grow up in an area with no natural predators. So no one is out there looking to make you dinner. So if that were the case, then you wouldn't bother developing any superpowers that would give you a good chance at defending yourself. Some species are even so important to the ecosystem or the area that they're in that we consider them keystone species. So if we were to take this species out of the ecosystem, the structure and the function would both change. So that means that what the ecosystem looks like, what kind of species are in it, and how they interact would all be different just by taking out this one species. Do you have an idea of who a keystone species here in the park might be, Calvin?
Ravens.
Maybe. How about gray wolves? Now, what would happen if poof, all of a sudden we didn't have any more gray wolves? Any guesses?
Less poop.
Okay. What would there be more of, Calvin?
More wolf food.
Yeah. So as soon as poof, there's no more wolves, we've got a whole ton of species that the wolves would otherwise be feeding on. So we've got elk, caribou, deer, moose, or ungulates. So if suddenly poof, there's no more wolves, the ungulate population is going to take off. And of course, if you're an ungulate, that is great news. But of course, what are ungulates eating? They're going to be eating our native plant species. So as soon as we've got a huge population of plant eaters, now the plants are going to be having a really hard time. They might get overgrazed, meaning that they get pretty much wiped out because they're all eaten up. Or they may start developing their own superpowers to try to combat these herbivores or things trying to eat them. So really, we're kind of changing the type of plants and how the plants are acting in the ecosystem just by taking out that gray wolf. As well as this, we've got loads of other species which are relying on these plants, our other herbivores like our ground squirrels, loads of other species. Some of them, like birds, small mammals, insects, may also be using them as habitat. So now, just by taking out one keystone species, we've affected basically everybody else in the ecosystem. Pretty powerful stuff. Any other ideas who might be a keystone species? I'll give you a clue. This one is quite big. Yeah. Bears, totally. So bears, might not know this about bears, but bears, they love to eat berries. They're huge berry bellies. And so they'll find a nice berry patch and park themselves there and munch away, do their thing. And maybe they'll get tired of the salmon berries, so they see, ooh, some huckleberries over there. Let's check these out. And so they'll end up over here, and they'll eat some of their huckleberries, and at some point they're going to need to go to the bathroom. So if they go to the bathroom over here, now they are depositing the seeds from the salmon berries over there, meaning that they are planting new salmon berry plants way over here. So this is a really excellent dispersal method for plants. They want their seeds to go all over the place. And they totally know that the bears are going to be eating them. That's why fruit and berries are so juicy and often bright colors, really sweet and tasty. The plants want them to be eaten. But if you think about eating a piece of fruit, you don't really want the seed to get digested as well. Otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose of taking it somewhere new if it's just going to be all munched up, right? So seeds, they are going to be more slippery and more hard. The plant is intentionally making them very, very indestructible. So they can get carried out throughout the park, planted in new directions or new areas, and works very, very well for the plants.
Wow, plants really must be superheroes. That's a lot of thinking and foresight.
Well, a lot of plants really are. Plants are amazing because they take nutrients in the atmosphere and in the soil and make them available for other species like us. As well as this, it is thanks to plants and their algae cousins that we can actually breathe the air around us. They are so important at making oxygen, which is very, very necessary for us to live. But some plants, they still have these amazing superpowers, but they've maybe gotten a little bit too powerful, and they start to use their powers for their own good at the expense of other beings. Take spotted knapweed for an example. Now, spotted knapweed is a plant that has incredible powers of survival, but they've really taken over, and it's kind of bad news for everybody else. If you can think about pretty much anything a supervillain might need, spotted knapweed probably has it on lock.
What about, do they have an evil army or something?
They kind of do, though. So the spotted knapweed is able to produce 18,000 seeds per year. And each one of these seeds can go on to become another spotted knapweed. As well as this, spotted knapweeds do really well in disturbed sites, so maybe old industrial areas, by the sides of roads and kind of sandy termite mounds. So it means that other plants aren't really there to challenge them. They can grow that evil army of minions without any threat from others. But scary stuff.
Yeah, I'll say. Do they have like a scary costume or something?
You shouldn't have asked, Calvin. Of course they have a super scary costume. And lucky for you, I've actually got a version right here. Wow, that really suits you, Calvin. Brings out your eyes.
Thanks. Do they have, evil weapons?
Yeah. The spotted knapweed actually has a couple of evil weapons. Now the first one is that they are able to make a chemical which makes it really, really hard for other plants in the area to grow. That is, if they can even get enough nutrients and water from the soil in the first place. The spotted knapweed has a super long, strong taproot, which means they can basically hoard everything in the soil, making the other plants kind of starve. As well as this, the spotted knapweed, they don't have any natural predators or herbivores, so no one's trying to eat them. And they have a pretty yucky taste, so anybody who comes across them is not going to be interested in trying them out anyway. So they've already got this advantage over the native species.
Wow, that's really tough for them. Yikes. Huh, must be really scary to be another plant when the spotted knapweed comes to town.
Well, yes, but it's not just the plants. Because of that long, strong root, the spotted knapweed, they can actually break up the soil and cause things like erosion. And like we talked about with the gray wolf, when we had one plant take over or one plant die out, it made it really difficult for other species that rely on these plants to survive, thinking of those that might eat the native plants, those that might make their habitat there.
Yikes. Well, what can we do?
Well, once an invasive species, so a species that isn't from here, once they get really well established here, it can be hard to get rid of them, especially when they are as strong and powerful as the spotted knapweed. So really the best thing we can be doing is making sure that they are not further spreading their range. The little bit I didn't tell you is that spotted knapweed are also super fast travelers. Now because they grow so well on the side of the road, they get picked up by cars, by the wheels and the undercarriage, so they can pretty much move as far and as fast as a vehicle. So really the best thing we can be doing to stop these pesky hitchhikers from moving into new areas is to check the bottom of our car, check our shoes, make sure that they're not catching a lift with us and making their way into new sensitive habitats. Ow. Is that bugs in there or something? Sorry, this is kind of awkward. Oh, it's gotten under your hat, Calvin. What the heck? I'm gonna have to check this out. I'll be right back. Is it over here? Okay. I know I brought some DEET, so let me just dig that out. Where's my DEET? That's my dinner. That's my water bottle. That is my book. That is my extra hat. Gee, I know I've had DEET somewhere. It's gotta be here.
Hi there. My name is Missy the Mosquito, and I'm tired of being the bad guy. Yeah, I know we bite, but there's over 3,500 species of us, and only 100 are actually harmful to humans. Now, I may not have a cool costume or a nice theme song, but you know what? I know that I'm a hero. What? You don't believe me? Okay, well, who here likes being itchy? Isn't it fun? You can scratch and scratch and scratch and scratch and scratch and, no? Okay. What about my singing? Who likes my singing? Okay. Who here likes berries?
I'm young, I live in the water, and I swim around feeding on all the sponge and debris in the water. I'm called a filter feeder. And so I'm basically just like a filter. When I live in a new pond or a new body of water, I actually improve the water quality. As well as this, since I take out so much of that debris, I make it more accessible for my aquatic plant friends to access the dissolved gases like nitrogen and oxygen in the water. I'm literally a lifesaver. If only people knew. Oh, I hear that interpreter and her weird bird friend coming back. I'm gonna have to go. But it was nice meeting you. Stay sweet. Calvin, I did pack it, right? You saw me put it into my bag.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely saw some DEET. What about that? Is that it?
Calvin, you're right. Okay. I've got the DEET. I'm not afraid to use it. I think we lost it, Calvin. That mosquito is nowhere to be seen. Are you okay? That was really annoying. It kind of hurt you pretty bad there.
Yeah, I'll say those good-for-nothing mosquitoes. I wish they didn't even exist.
Yeah, I mean, they are really, really annoying, Calvin, but I think they must be good for something, right? Mosquitoes are actually a really important food source for fish, insects, even migratory birds. Remember when we took that gray wolf out of the habitat, we had some pretty profound and unexpected consequences. I guess the mosquito must need to feed all those different species.
That reminds me, I'm getting kind of peckish, if you will. Do you want to go to that sushi place in Princeton after the show?
Yeah, sure, I could go for some sushi. That reminds me. What do you get if you cross a garbage collector with someone who is really, really hungry?
Ravens!
No, not ravens, Calvin. Stop eating the human food. I'm talking about our decomposing superstars. Many of the species here in the park are saprotrophs, meaning that they feed off dead and decaying material. Now, I'm not talking old plastic bags or empty bottles. I'm talking about animal and plant matter that is no longer being used. They actually eat this material and recycle it back into the ecosystem. Pretty cool stuff. So imagine if we didn't have these decomposers. If a tree fell down, it would just stay there. It would not rot. All of the nutrients locked in that tree material would basically go nowhere. So thanks to these guys, we've got basically nature's very own bottle depot. Everything reused and recycled. There's a lot of very cool species who help us out with this. We've got millipedes, microorganisms, but at the center of it, we've got fungus. Hey, folks. The name's Deacon, the decomposer. I'm an oyster mushroom. Calvin, what are you doing?
I said I was hungry. Didn't you say fungi were our friends?
Well, yeah, but I mean, you can't just eat Deacon. I mean, some fungi can make you really sick, and don't you think he has a hard enough time without being made into some bird's dinner? Yeah, just because I'm an oyster mushroom doesn't mean I want to be lunch. I'm way too busy. I got stuff going on, you know? I'm breaking down old rotting logs, hanging out with trees, connecting up my plant pals. Connecting up your plant pals? What do you mean by that? You folks ever hear of mycorrhizae? What? Mycorrhizae, it's a very special relationship that us fungi can make with our plant friends. It means fungus root. Pretty cool stuff. Okay.
So you mean like a row of fungus from tree to tree to tree and mushroom and mushroom and mushroom and mushroom?
Yeah, Deacon, that sounds like a lot of work. Goodness, no, that's far too much energy. Although the mushrooms are the above-ground portion of us fungus, most of us actually lies below the surface of the soil. We've got vast networks of tiny, tiny strands, thinner than human hair, and this is called mycelia. So these mycelia, if they meet a tree root, they can actually form an incredibly complex exchange system. So plants, they can make their own food, but us fungi, we can't. We need to eat stuff. So in exchange for us going and finding more water and nutrients in the soil, the plants will give us carbon or sugars in return. Delicious. It works really well for the both of us, actually. It's thought to be due to this relationship between plants and fungus that we were actually able to help plants come out of the ocean over 450 million years ago. No fungus, no forest. Did you hear that? Hear what, Deacon? Mycelial mayhem.
Mycelia? I thought you said they were part of fungi. Aren't fungi our friends?
Yeah, who is this guy, Deacon? What's the big deal? Mycelial mayhem? He's a parasitic fungus. Oh, okay. So Calvin, we're gonna need to clear out the area. So some fungi are really helpful. They decompose things or they connect up plants in the soil. But some, they've also turned real nasty, and they actually digest things that are still alive. So they can cause all sorts of nasty diseases like cankers, rusts, root rot, butt rot. Ah, butt rot! Calvin, some of these fungi will actually eat other fungi.
What? Other fungi? We gotta get out of here.
Okay, no. Come on, we can take him. There's 3 of us. There's one of him. What do you think, Deacon? Where is he? Back there? Okay. Well, what if we sneak up on him? Surely if he doesn't see us coming, we'll have a pretty good chance, right? Okay. Let's go. We're gonna be super quiet. Do you see him, Deacon? No, not yet. I'll keep my eye out. Pretty dark back here. I can't see anything. Calvin? Calvin? Calvin, what's going on? Deacon? Oh my gosh. Oh, who are you? You must be this mycelial mayhem character everyone was talking about. Well, now that I'm here, I guess I'm gonna have to fight you, right? Ow! Calvin! Deacon! Oh, enough, mycelial mayhem. We can beat you.
What?
You think you can beat me? All right, well, I did say I'd play fair, so I'll challenge you to a round of mycelial mayhem says. But I warn you, few have escaped unscathed. So us fungi, we have 3 strategies for making our life out here. The first one, saprotroph, meaning that they eat things that are decomposing. So if mycelial mayhem says saprotroph, I want you to pretend you're eating something delicious. We all got it? I'll practice. The interpreter, her life's at stake here. All right, looks like you've got that one. So, mycorrhizae, what Deacon was talking about, fungus root. And this is the connection that the plants can make with us fungi. So if mycelial mayhem says mycorrhizae, you're going to pretend that you are a fungal mycelium hugging a tree root or a plant root. Looks like you've got that one. You're actually quite good at this. But you won't get this last one. Now, some of us fungi, the smartest, the best, the brightest, we've figured out you don't need to do all that. In fact, some of us have become parasitic, meaning that we benefit off of other species, but we don't give anything in return. So if mycelial mayhem says parasite, I want you to rub your hands together and give me your best evil laugh. Oh, wow, that's frightening. Looks like you've got that one, but here's the most important part. You can only do your action if mycelial mayhem says. If you do it when mycelial mayhem hasn't said, I win. You think you can beat me now? I see some nods. All right, well, we'll do a practice round just so you have some chance of winning. Mycelial mayhem says mycorrhizae. Okay. Mycelial mayhem says saprotroph. Mycelial mayhem says parasite. Mycelial mayhem says saprotroph. Mycelial mayhem says parasite. Mycorrhizae. Some of you are still a parasite. Okay, I think you're ready for the real thing. We don't want to give you too much practice. Mycelial mayhem says saprotroph. Mycelial mayhem says parasite. Mycelial mayhem says mycorrhizae. Mycelial mayhem says parasite. Mycelial mayhem says saprotroph. Parasite! Are you serious? Best 2 out of 3? No? Okay, well, this is kind of awkward. I guess I'll go get the interpreter. Laters. Unbelievable. Mycelial mayhem, I knew they'd beat you. You didn't stand a chance. Now, it's time to take you to fungus jail. Fungus jail? No, there's not much room in here. Calvin, there you are. Oh my gosh, that was pretty scary. Oh my goodness. Thank you, everyone. I knew you could beat mycelial mayhem. Oh, and look who I found. It's Calvin. You okay, Calvin? That was really scary.
Yeah, I'll say I almost witnessed a murder. Luckily, only one crow showed up.
Okay, well, glad you're feeling better, Calvin. Oh, it looks like someone's tagged along with us. Hi there. What? I can't hear you at all. Here, how about we sit and then you can use my microphone. How's that? What's your name, little one?
Mountain pine beetle. Ah, villain!
Yeah, no offense, mountain pine beetle, but you are not too popular around these parts. Just earlier on, we were talking about how dangerous invasive species can be.
Invasive?
I'm as endemic as the Cascade Gold Mantle ground squirrel, thank you very much. My family's been here for generations. I'm actually really important to the ecosystem.
I break down old, dead and decaying trees. I make habitat for new species. I can also recycle nutrients, just like those decomposers. Well, that's true, I guess, but it's really hard to see you as a superhero when you're the reason that so many millions of hectares of our forests are having trouble. Millions of hectares of forests? You think I could take down that many trees? I'm the size of a grain of rice. Well, I mean, that's true, not you personally, but there's so many of you. Exactly. There's so many of us. Now, a gal's gotta eat, and how am I to blame for the fact that there's way too many of our population for the trees to support? It used to be such a tight-knit community. Only the strongest and bravest of us could survive through the cold, harsh winter. Now that the winters are warmer and shorter, feels like anyone can make it. So the trees are just overrun, overwhelmed. They can't deal with that many of us. Used to be like a cozy log cabin, just with the closest of friends, and now I feel like it's apartments everywhere you look. Wow, that's an interesting take, Mountain Pine Beetle. I really didn't think about that. I guess it is true. It's not really your fault. It's the fault of so many. Why are there so many of you? What can we do to solve this? Well, unfortunately, the colder winters need to come back for us to maintain our more stable population. So things like climate change, they need to be dealt with, and that's going to be what's going to help us bring our populations back to a normal level. But in the meantime, it really helps if you don't call us the villain. I mean, I'm just trying to make my living here. Don't need to badmouth me all the time. Could you take me back to my apartment, please? Oh, sure. I guess that's the least I could do. Is it in one of these trees around here? No, it's behind you in that blue tote. The super supplies? That's super supplies. Mountain Pine Beetle, there's no apartments in there. Just go have a look. Come on, trust me. All right. Okay, hop on. See, whoa. Mountain Pine Beetle, you've got a good setup in here. There's a bed, plasma TV, jacuzzi? What? Okay, well, enjoy your evening. Gee, I really never considered that Mountain Pine Beetle wasn't a supervillain. Huh. Wow, there really is a lot that species here in the park need to be aware of. I mean, with things like climate change, deforestation, habitat loss, invasive species. Wow, the list just goes on, doesn't it, Calvin?
Yeah, it sure does. And I mean, I'm always happy to help, but I'm just one bird. We really could use all the help we can get.
Calvin, that gives me an idea. What do you think about this? How would you folks, as of tonight, like to be honorary Manning Park superheroes? Yeah? Okay, it's super easy. All you need to do is say the oath with me. And lucky for you, the oath is already going to be on the screen, so it's even easier. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't pick. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't pick. We don't pick the pretty flowers, we just stare at them for hours. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't pick. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't feed. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't feed. We don't feed the birds and mammals, 'cause we know they're wild animals. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't feed. Ah, man! If we're heroes and we know it, we don't step. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't step. We don't step off of the trail, or we might land on a snail. If we're heroes and we know it, we don't step. If we're heroes and we know it, yell hooray, hooray! If we're heroes and we know it, yell hooray, hooray! We do all these things today so Manning Park can stay this way. If we're heroes and we know it, yell hooray, hooray! Wow, look at all the help we've got, Calvin. This is amazing. I feel so much better now. We've got a really good chance at this. Yeah, now that all the adrenaline's worn off, I'm feeling kind of tired, actually. I guess it is about that time, Calvin. Maybe we should be getting you to bed pretty soon. I mean, you could probably bunk with Mountain Pine Beetle. Looked like she had a couple of bunk beds in there.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay, well, before we do that, I think it is time that I get to say thank you, everyone, for coming out. It's really been a pleasure being an interpreter here at Manning Park. Tomorrow night, same time, same place, we have got Going Batty. Going to be learning all about some of the bats in the area, so I will definitely be showing up for that one. We do have that donation moose in the very back of the amphitheater. If you brought money for firewood, and oh, darn it, there's that provincial-wide fire ban. Well, we can still have a happy ending, just as satisfying, putting that money in the donation bin so our interpretive programs can keep on thriving. As well as that, just remember to keep your 6 feet distance on the way out. Feel free to come down and ask Calvin or myself any questions. I just ask that you don't touch Calvin. He's a little bit sensitive. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming out, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Can I say hi to Calvin?
Absolutely.